Welcome. I am Steve Anderson, your host, here today to interview a Kentucky basketball legend during the Leadership Retreat for PT Pros. PT Pros is a 7-clinic physical therapy company in the state of Kentucky. Rex Chapman sat down with us to share his story of the highs and lows of a career in basketball and the struggle to find his way after he was done as a player. Chapman was a college standout at the University of Kentucky and went on to play for 4 National Basketball Association teams through his 12-year career. He later served as a vice president of player personnel with the Denver Nuggets. Chapman was selected with the 8th overall pick in 1988 NBA draft and became the first player ever signed by the Charlotte Hornets in their franchise's history. Chapman played a total of 666 regular season NBA games, scoring 9,731 points for an average of 14.6 points per game. Rex is from Lexington, Kentucky, and still lives there today.
How's everybody? Yeah? Good?
Well, thanks for being here. This is
Thanks for
awesome.
having me. Happy to be
The
here.
state of Kentucky, this is a big deal. You're like a legend.
Well, not for all the right reasons.
You know, the odds of playing basketball, first of all for Kentucky, and then being in the NBA for 12 years is just daunting.
Yeah.
I'm interested as how were you able to beat the odds and become this legendary basketball player from the state of Kentucky?
Well, you know, I guess probably for a long time in my life, I would have said that it was hard work and putting in the hours and all that. But really and truly, I've always been an addict. And I was a basketball addict for 30-some years. It was my personality. I'm very lucky that I didn't stray into something else, addiction-wise, at a young age. But yeah, I also was just afraid to fail, very afraid to fail. If I was going to do something, I wanted to be the best at it that I could be. Yeah. And so, yeah, it was just a mental thing, I guess. I wanted to do well, and I was decent at sports, so I just kept playing.
I remember a great story back with these two, you know, Magic and Larry Bird.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And Magic tells a story that he always felt he could always work harder than anyone else. And he did. Right. He said until he met Larry Bird. Right. And then he was like, oh my gosh, someone's working harder than I am.
Yeah, it is. I would lay awake at night sometimes in middle school and high school, and I'd wake up at midnight in a panic thinking, you know, somebody on the West Coast is really working right now, you know, working hard, and I'm sitting here in the bed asleep. I need to be up doing something. So that was kind of my mindset.
Well, it intrigues me that we as, I want to say common folk, we as just, you know, watching people like you that reach this high level, sometimes I worry, do we admire and kind of really look at people that are reaching these high levels to the point where it's not healthy. And you look at entertainers, you look at people in music, you look at whatever, and we so admire those people. But as you, I think, are hinting, there's some issues.
Yeah, you know, hey, I've since I was about 15, I started being recognized here in the state, and so I've grown up kind of in the spotlight, and you know, the one thing that you find out is that people, when someone sees you playing on television or follows you, they just associate that with you, just basketball. And, you know, there's so much more to
without
people.
Getting to know you personally.
Right.
It's
and
more,
so
yeah.
when I see, especially when I was younger, when I would see people and I didn't respond to them as in the manner they were responding to me. And it was just because I didn't know them. I didn't know them. They felt like they knew me. And so then I had to learn that, hey, you know, that's part of this whole thing. I've got to kind of step my game up and be more friendly. But it took a long time to learn those things.
There's a great song by James Taylor where he says it's so weird that everyone calls you by name, your first name, like they know you, and you're like, I have no idea who this person is. So that's interesting. Yeah. So did you miss that? when you were out of the game, was that hard to be recognized that way or talked with that way, and then all of a sudden the spotlight is not there as much?
It really wasn't, and the only reason I say that is because I think when I retired from playing, and right around that time, I developed an opiate problem. I think I was just sort of tired of being recognized, and for years I ended up isolating myself for the most part, and I guess kind of taking a break from being me, and it was very, very unhealthy, and it almost killed me.
So when you were at Kentucky, you were there for 2 years, and then you went into the NBA. I'm curious as to why you made that decision, and do you think it was the right decision?
It was a difficult decision. I didn't grow up thinking I was going to play in the NBA. I grew up hoping, hoping that I would be able to get a scholarship so my folks wouldn't have to pay for an education. And I didn't even know what that really meant. I just knew from the time I was young, hearing my folks talk about college education and how they were going to pay for it and this and that. So I knew that was sort of a stressor for them, and I wanted to take that away from them. When I was able to do that, I got to college, and by that time, I guess others started thinking that maybe I would play professionally. I played 2 years here. It was great fun, stressful, but I was going to be a top 10 pick, and the time was right. Physically, no problem. Physically, I could handle playing in the NBA. Emotionally, I probably wasn't ready. We were going on probation here, and the writing was sort of on the wall.
Yeah, that's time to move on.
Yeah.
Now, when you did go in the NBA, you played 12 years, and I think I read where you had 7 surgeries during those 12 years.
My last 3 years, I had 7 surgeries.
Last 3 years,
Right.
okay. So do you think, if you look at the NBA right now, are there too many games? Is there too much expected out of the athletes to do that in a day in or day out, or do you just think it's just part of the game?
It's definitely too much. I mean, 82 games a season. You play 8 exhibition games, and then that's not including if you play, you can play 30 playoff games. Yeah. So, and then you're practicing. So it's definitely too much physically. The human body's not, I don't think that it was created to do what professional athletes do. High school, all right, for a while. Maybe college, a few years. But the miles add up. We had a big kid the other night for the Knicks, Kristaps Porzingis. I don't know if you guys saw that. 7'3", 20 years old. He's fantastic. He went in and dunked a ball the other night, came down, non-contact, tore his ACL. So now he doesn't really know it yet, but this is his first injury. He's going to be out for 6 months to a year. And then he's going to try to come back and play, and he's going to try to play for another 15 years. And he's going to have problems physically. He's just going to, all guys that play professional sports have myriad injuries and things that they're maintaining every single night. Nobody feels good out there, not really. Yeah. So it's definitely too much. But it's a great way to make a living.
Yeah, well, it's exciting. You're in the spotlight. Those are the positives.
But you can't do it forever,
Can't do it
so
forever.
you got to take advantage.
Yeah. Getting back to the basketball, what was your highlight of your career, and what was maybe your lowest?
I don't know what my highlight would be. Lowest, just as and this will be, I played a lot of basketball games. The one that hurt the most was my junior year in high school. We won our region and went to the state tournament, and I was for sure the best player in the state last couple years, and my teammates, it was the greatest. A bunch of guys and they're still some of my best friends, who got to play in Rupp Arena. I loved it for them. I was going to be Mr. Basketball the next year, and we played the next year, and our crosstown rival, Owensboro High School, we played each other 10 times my last 2 years. They won 5, and we won 5, and we were the number 1 and 2 teams in the state in the same district in Owensboro. And we blindly drew each other in the first round of the district my senior year, and they beat us on a last-second shot. And it's still the most devastating loss I've ever had to this day, and mostly because I feel like I let my teammates down. I was really, at the time, I was an NBA player playing in high school and couldn't win a district game against a bunch of high schoolers.
But isn't that profound that that's still in your cry?
I know. Every time I see my buddies, every time I just right away go, sorry guys, I'm so sorry.
Oh gosh, so. Are there still springs in those legs? I mean, you could get up.
You know, there really aren't. My ego though compels me to try to dunk at least once every year. And I did it at 49. And when I say I did it, it just sneaked over the rim. So I turned 50 this year. I think I shouldn't do it anymore because
it's not worth the risk.
No, because it's just a blown Achilles waiting.
Yeah, exactly. So you mentioned it earlier, so I'm going to bring up now. So with these injuries and with this demand and whatever, you develop an opioid issue.
Yeah.
And can you just share us a little bit about how the journey went, and was it, I'm interested to know at what time you knew you were in trouble.
Yeah, first alcohol I had, I was 22. I came to Kentucky. I couldn't get into any bars here. They wouldn't let me into any bars. My teammates would get in, but they'd say, Rex, if somebody sees you in here, we'll get our liquor license taken. So I wasn't allowed to go into any bars. And so therefore I didn't in college. I would go to the gym and shoot or play or whatever with a couple buddies. It wasn't the most normal college experience, but yeah, I wasn't a party guy. I wasn't someone out seeking that sort of behavior. But I had 7 surgeries my last 3 years, a rod in my shin, metal in my ankle. I tore my Achilles, screw in my wrist, fused thumbs and fingers, and that was, it all just kind of happened at once. And, but all through that, you know, I'd get out of surgeries and, you know, you'd have a prescription for Vicodin or whatever it was, and I never took them because I always knew I needed to know exactly how I felt so I could get back out there.
So you were aware of the hazard from the get-go?
I don't think so. I just knew that I'm sure I'd had some after surgeries, but I didn't like it, you know. But I was playing, and I was still trying to play. When I finished playing, my very last surgery, I knew I was retiring at the end of the season. With about 10 games to go, I had an emergency appendectomy. And we were in Oakland, going to play the Warriors. Took me to the hospital, said, you got to have an appendectomy. They did that. I got back to Phoenix, and our doctor, or I shouldn't say our doctor, a doctor gave me a prescription for this was 2000, for this new sort of pain relief called OxyContin, and gave me a prescription, 3 a day for 30 days. I wasn't going to play basketball anymore. I was also, like a lot of people, challenging marriage, 4 little kids, and I took that OxyContin, and within 2 days I was in love. It was a feeling like, you know, it's sort of a euphoric feeling, but one in that really bad thoughts are fleeting and they go right away. And the good thoughts kind of hang around more, and you live in this sort of world of it'll be all right.
Everything's okay.
It'll be all right. And then slowly but surely, it's definitely not all right. To answer your question, about a year and a half after that, and it was only because a friend of mine, Danny Ainge with Celtics, came and said, you got a big problem. You got to go away somewhere. And at the time, I was taking 40 Vicodin a day and probably 10 OxyContin a day, and chewing them up. And a little bit would stay in my teeth, and like a true addict. So that was it. I went away to rehab for 30 days, never touched OxyContin again. But within a year, back to Vicodin. 6 months after that, back to rehab. And then I got out, a doctor put me on Suboxone, and I was on Suboxone for 10 years. And life got really, really
So
bad.
how does someone get access to that much medication at the height when you're taking 40 a day and 10 a day? And is it doctors that are...
Obviously, in the beginning, yeah, it's doctors, and then it's multiple doctors. And listen, I could go to the phone book right now, and most people know me here.
Yeah.
They know my story. I could go, and I promise you, in 20 minutes, I can find 3 doctors that, if you want to write a prescription, if you want to write them a check or give them $150, you can walk out of there with a prescription.
So do you think your celebrity added to that ability, because they
Yes.
know you and whatever, that
Yes.
they're going to stretch the rules a little bit for
Yes.
that? Yeah.
But then it becomes, there's just, you've hit this doctor too often, and then all of a sudden you go to buying them off the street. And that's how I would. Now, when I say that, off the street with this type of medication, many times, and when you're looking for that sort of quantity, they come right out the back of the pharmacy to whoever it is. The pharmacies order too much, and then that's their side business. And that's how the whole thing. I would drive and go, and I'd pay, I don't know, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 for 2 big 500 quantity bottles of, and then I got to drive home. And if I happen to be pulled over, guess what? Straight to prison. That's, with that kind of quantity, I mean, it's with intent to distribute, more than likely. So all kinds of dumb and foggy, but yeah.
So being an athlete your entire life, did it ever occur to you that the way out of this might be through exercise or anything like that, as opposed to taking the drug, or does the drug just take over?
The drug takes over. I know now. I know it's, I also, during that, from 2000 to 2014, I went from being about 190 pounds to 260 pounds. And just unhealthy, physically, mentally, emotionally. It's been the last 3 years that I went back to rehab in 2014, and haven't no.
So what was the
opiates
difference
since.
the third time?
Probably I was at rock bottom. I was embarrassed. I'd embarrassed my children. It was just, I guess, time for me, and I don't know how to put it any other way than that. I'm an experienced rehabber at this point, and I've been a few times, and when you're in there, you start seeing the people that you know are going to be in and out, and the people who are sort of ready to do it. And listen, it's hard. I've gotten into a routine of trying to stay busy, but also doing these sorts of things, because it keeps me honest, helps keep me honest. I can't go in and talk to a bunch of addicts if I'm really not walking the walk. And I don't want to go back there. I don't want to. All that stuff's hard. It's too hard to go through, and I just don't want that anymore. It's difficult when you've got I have a brain that's, from the time I was little, my mom would even say it, I needed to be entertained all the time, or needed to be doing something. My whole childhood, I remember, I'm bored. I'm bored. My mom, and I can hear it to this day, it still grates on me. It's good to be bored sometimes. Oh, really? Tell my brain. So yeah, it's always been a struggle. Very good brain for competing and wanting to embarrass you on the basketball floor. Great brain for that. Also, asshole brain. Not the greatest brain outside of sports. It's a difficult brain, and that's taken time to dial down over the last 20 years.
So now that you understand that and understand it very well, what's the future look like for you channeling that?
I'm excited, and I can tell you this, for 15 years from the time I finished playing, I didn't know. I knew that I shouldn't. It was so confusing. I was being told, listen, this Suboxone is not only helping with your opiate problem, it's really good for your arthritis. Okay, no. Yeah. I think I deep down knew it, but I was so far down that rabbit hole that I couldn't see out. And so I knew that I wasn't optimistic about life. I just wasn't. I didn't, and through whatever course of events, I was able to somehow come out alive. Somebody taking 50 pills a day, and especially, 20% of them being OxyContin. I should have died and OD'd a long time ago. So I'm very fortunate to be here. I'm fortunate to be able to, share a little bit of this stuff with people who might take something from it. I can remember sitting in rehab and there were a couple times that people said things. You hear a lot of people speak, but a couple things stick. So if something like that can stick with somebody, then good.
Well, I think you're very brave, and we need spokespeople like you to get the word out and support other alternatives than the pills. And so I just commend you for having the courage to do it, because it'd be easy to kind of just fade away and not have to deal with that. But
I'm luckier, I believe, because I lived other places, and I'm only saying that for the reason that I met a lot of people in my life and made good friends all over the country. And when I got out of rehab, I had places to go. I could go, and I was able to I was able to recover with as much dignity as I can imagine, only due to the fact that I knew. Now listen, think about it. When I got out, I had legal. I'd gotten in trouble. So I had legal problems. I had no driver's license. Hadn't had one for 10 years. Couldn't make myself go to the DMV. That's the type of hole that you don't want anything to do with any sort of work or any kind of, but you get out and you have problems. Now, if you get out and you're from anywhere outside of a big city in Kentucky, Lexington or Louisville, when you get out, many people have emptied their relatives' bank accounts. They've got legal problems. They only know 10 people. 4 of them are cousins. You've screwed everybody that you know. Now what? Well, you have to eat, and you can't get a job. So the first money you come across, you're going to put it right back in your arm, or you're going to go back down that road, because everything else is too daunting. And I get asked by parents a lot, 18, 19 years old, he's in and out, and he's got a problem and this and that. I'm just fed up, and I'll go, listen, you can be fed up if you like. If you kick them out, and now I'm talking younger, there comes a point, where if somebody's a real grown-up, there does come a point where look, I don't know that you can ever, I think it's dangerous for them to get out and be, Now, tough love, yes. Helping, yes. But not being a dummy about it. Don't be a dummy and let somebody take advantage of you. But just know, I think the other misconception is people think that everyone has sought this behavior. And I can just tell you, whether they sought it or not, it doesn't matter. That's where they are, and they're there, and it doesn't matter, and they're going to be there. It's a whole new part of their life that they've got to manage, and it takes people helping them to do it. My advice would be just be as sensitive about it as you can, but also while being brutally honest. I should have probably been more sensitive about how I was saying that stuff, because a lot of times when I'm doing these things, I'm talking to addicts and who've been through some of it, and so they hear some of the more. So if I wasn't sensitive enough, that's on me.
No, not at all. I think, I mean, to me, it's real authenticity, and that's what we need to hear. I think that's what people need to hear. So it was right on, And are you now working some way to get the word out and help addicts?
There's a lot of stuff going on that we're not quite ready to talk about. But listen, it's a huge problem.
Yeah.
Now we've got a whole segment of society trying to go back into the everyday world. Teeth are gone from meth, from whatever it is, and for sure, we as a society, we look at these people and we're like, I don't want to be around that, and I don't want. It's too dirty and complicated, and ugh. It's here, and we can ignore it, or we can try to help. And I just feel like I should try to help. I don't like talking about it all the time. I can remember being in rehab, and I can remember people telling me even after rehab, you don't even know, you're going to be great, and you're going to want it. And me being adamant that I don't want this to be my story. I do not want. That's not what I'm doing. Guess what I'm doing?
And you walked in today, and my first thought was, man, you look fit. You look great. So
I can tell you this. Thank you, but this is a product of swimming and massage and trying to take care of myself after a lot of years of neglect, diet. I'm the biggest fan of physical therapy. I really am. I spent as much time my last 4 or 5 years in the training room as I did on the basketball floor. One of my best friends is the head trainer for the Phoenix Suns, Aaron Nelson, and so I know what you guys do, and it really is sort of the path. The opioids or the opiates shouldn't be any part of rehab and recovery past post-op for a few days.
Are you hopeful that we can reverse this problem, or is it just
I'm hopeful.
You're hopeful?
Yeah,
so,
because I know. I mean, I've spoken a lot and been very involved with our state government, with our lawmakers, and I think that people are ready to work together. It's not a partisan issue. It's a human issue, and it's killing everybody in this area of the country. And that's not an exaggeration. We lose over 100 people a day nationwide, and 4 or 5 people every day in Kentucky die from it. Every single day. And it's 60,000 people a year. Come on. And so I think our government is starting to get it. And look, the more people that can put a face on it, the better.
So you've been clean now. Is that the right word?
3 years. Yep, it's
okay,
the right word. Yeah.
Okay, clean for 3 years. Yeah. Is it true that it's still, you think about it all the time?
No, I mean, I really don't.
You don't. Okay.
But listen, I can say this. It's hard. I don't know that I have it as hard as a lot, because I never, for some reason, well, because I had the financial wherewithal to obtain pills. I didn't put a needle in my arm.
Okay.
Once you put a needle in your arm, I think that something changes, and from what I understand, that feeling, the physical feeling, it's much more intense and enjoyable. And I can't even imagine what that feels like. I really can't, because it's, but I feel like I'm lucky in that, I'm definitely lucky in that I don't have cravings. Now I did for, here and there, but they were cravings. I'm so lucky in that I was able to piece this together. They were really only cravings when things were stressful and bad, and I knew that my emotions were craving it, and it wasn't the physical anymore. It was about wanting to run and hide from my feelings, and I still keeping them at bay. I still like keeping my emotions at bay, but I work at it.
Yeah. Well, that's probably not that unusual for
Yeah.
humankind, right?
Right,
So,
right,
yeah.
right.
Well, to kind of wind up here,
Yeah.
You've been at the highest high. You just
Oh,
described
really?
the lowest
Yeah,
low.
yes.
And, just as a parting comment here, what's your word of wisdom kind of relating to leadership? That's what we're all here this weekend talking about, is leadership. And what can you tell us, having experienced those two extremes of going forward?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think that you guys have such an opportunity to help people feel better, and there's nothing quite like that ability to be able to put out your hand and help someone else. And listen, physical pain is it's tough, and unfortunately we have, I think, an unhealthy view of how to get back to feeling good right now. I don't know that medication is involved, so I'm a big proponent of acupuncture and physical therapy and massage, and I swim a lot now. It's the only thing I feel like I can do or do that I don't just dread. So, words of wisdom, I don't know that I've got a lot of them, but I think that you guys are doing a great job, and I appreciate everything that you do.
Well, again, we appreciate your vulnerability, your authenticity, and sharing your story with us. And thanks for being here with us today. We really appreciate it. So, thank you.
Thanks, guys.